Hello, welcome everyone to this new session of the DuPont Summit on Science, Technology, and Environmental Policy 2024. Now we are here to listen Dr. Inga Olnikain about generative AI, governance, fix, power, and politics. We remember you to write your questions on the chat box or in the Q&A so she can acknowledge them by the end of her presentation. Without saying anything else, welcome Dr. Inga Unikain. The room is all yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for the kind invitation. My name is Inga Olnitsane. I'm currently based at the University of Birmingham, and I am political scientist working on governance of science, technology, and innovation. And the past 7 years, in particular, I have worked on AI governance, politics, and policy. And here on this slide, you can see some of the publications that I have prepared together with my team, which are dedicated to issues such as role of government in AI policy, as power of big tech in this area, and also questions about purpose of artificial intelligence development and use. And today, today's talk is dedicated to my recent article, Governance Fix, Power and Politics in Controversies about Governing Generative AI. This article was published some months ago in a Journal of Policy and Society, and it is part of forthcoming special issue on governance of generative AI. In this article, I look on controversies that surrounded emergence of generative AI. So this is a good time to talk about it because it has just been 2 years since ChatGPT was released in late 2022. And that sparked a lot of controversies about the ways to govern generative AI. And these controversies unfolded in a context of hype, which is typical for emerging technologies. These hypes are characterized by high positive and negative expectations, and they influence, even if these expectations are exaggerated and irrespective if they come later true, they influence policies and politics which are unfolding today. And just to remind about some of these controversies following launch of ChatGPT, you might remember that last year there was an open letter which called for pausing these large AI experiments. They called for 6 months. This letter was signed by more than 30,000 signatories, and these include names such as Elon Musk, Stuart Russell, and Yosha Bengio. And then a couple of months later, after this first letter, there was a second letter, which consisted just of one sentence, which said that mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. This again got a lot of attention, but it also was criticized and challenged. One example, which is on this slide, of challenges and criticisms came from the so-called stochastic parrots paper. Authors who have prepared this paper, who already before launch of ChatGPT raised concerns about risks related to language models, related to issues such as bias, such as environmental costs. And in their letter, they actually called that rather than focusing on these hypothetical risks, it is more important to look already on immediate problems, such as, for example, exploitative practices and inequalities, which these technologies reinforce. And looking on these different letters and different positions, this also led that debate about generative AI got very much framed in terms of existential versus immediate risks. So it was very much debate about risks, and sometimes kind of contrasting them and asking which is more important. Is it more focus should be on existential risks or immediate risks? And we can question if this is the most productive framing, but it was very dominant. And that also raised a lot of questions about how to govern this generative AI. And against this background, I asked three research questions. First, what governance and policy proposals for generative AI are put forward? Second, which framings and controversies dominate in generative AI governance and policy debates? What are omissions and silences? And third, how emerging governance of generative AI can be conceptualized. To answer these questions, and I analyze initial policy initiatives in this area, and these include initiatives coming from OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, also initiatives coming from G7, which launched Hiroshima process, focused specifically on generative AI, and also first AI summit, which was organized in UK at the end of last year. And these three initiatives, they are also closely related, and they are also referring and building on each other. And I analyze these initiatives through the lens of responsible innovation approach. This responsible innovation approach has dominated the debates about technology governance over past 10 years. It is very broad and also very fluid and flexible approach. I specifically look on three key features of this approach. First of these key features is focus on collective stewardship of technology towards socially beneficial goals, as it goes beyond individual responsibility of technology development. So responsibility here is not just responsibility of individual researchers, but it takes more systemic approach, looking how this responsibility can also be embedded in broader sense in technology governance. A second emphasis is very much on inclusion of public, on wide range of stakeholders and two-way consultation, so that society and stakeholders play an active role in co-shaping technology development. And third, very important is about feature of this approach is extending technology governance beyond risk management to encompass also questions of purpose and direction of innovation. And this is very important because this third feature means that we are not only looking what we don't want technology to do, we are also asking questions what technology should do and what are kind of democratic, inclusive processes to decide targets of technology development. Should technology development should be developed in order to facilitate economic growth, national competitiveness? Should it more focus on tackling societal challenges such as health, environment, inequality? In what ways technology can achieve these goals? And who will benefit from this technology? And so by taking this lens of responsible innovation, I go through these policy initiatives, I examine them, and here are some insights that I derived from policy documents and different speeches of politicians. Firstly, what we see is that when we look on policy dedicated to generative AI, that there is very strong focus on risks. And many of these risks are not very new to generative AIs. They have been discussed already before, for example, such as disinformation, manipulated content, distortion of public discourse, also bias and discrimination, labor market disruption, high concentration of market power among frontier AI developers that could weaken competition, reduce innovation and consumer choice. So they have been around, present in debates about artificial intelligence already before. There is suggestions that generative AI can kind of accelerate and exacerbate these risks. What is different from previous debates is this final point about more speculative risks, this loss of human control, as that AI systems seek to increase their own influence and reduce human control. This is so-called existential risk. And also, debate about existential risk of AI has been around before. What is new with generative AI is that this debate about existential risk is also entering more mainstream policy and politics. So it gets more mentioned in official documents, and it also gets attention of some of political leaders. Here are two examples. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, in her speech, a State of Union speech in 2023, also referred to these existential risks and cited one of those open letters that mitigating the risk of extension from AI should be a global priority. That also then got attention on social media and quite a lot of contested reactions. And also it got attention from previous UK government. What is important also about this risk framing is that these discussions and concerns about risk management very much dominate over considerations of purpose of generative AI when we look through these different policy initiatives. When we look on the first Global AI Safety Summit, we see that it has almost exclusive focus on risk management. When we look on OECD first documents on generative AI, it kind of mentioned also some questions about benefits, but it's again predominantly focus is on risks. And when we look on G7 guiding principles and code of conduct coming from Hiroshima process, then again, we see this dominance of risk. These guiding principles and code of conduct include 11 principles. And out of these 11 principles, 10 focus on risks, so almost all. And there's only one which also mentions addressing challenges such as global health, education, and UN Sustainable Development Goals. To sum up, what we see is very narrow focus on risks and largely neglecting issues of purpose, benefits, and direction. And this is very important omission because it kind of suggests way of thinking that as long as we manage risks, technology automatically will lead to benefits, and it completely neglects questions about who will benefit, what kind of benefits, because we know already from previous technology developments that benefits tend to be very unequally distributed, and it's very important who will benefit, which social groups, which countries will benefit. Would it be mostly some companies which benefit, and how to ensure broader distribution of benefits? And these questions are very much neglected in policy initiatives dedicated to generative AI. And that is also closely related to another feature of these documents, that they see very limited role for society in governing generative AI, which is again very different from what responsible innovation would suggest, that there is representation of stakeholders, that there are a variety of social groups involved, and that they participate in co-shaping this technology. When we look on different documents on generative AI, role for society is rather passive. For example, this pause letter mentions that society should be given chance to adapt to technology rather than actively shape. OECD sees this role in stakeholders mostly in terms of preventing and mitigating risks. AI Safety Summit was largely ignoring civil society, but then there was kind of pushback, and one of initiatives that came out was AI Fringe Initiative for civil society. And that is very interesting that society, participation of different social groups is framed as a fringe rather than as a core of debate of development of technology. And this AI Safety Summit also got some pushback from civil societies. There was open letter saying that those who are most affected by AI have been marginalized by this event, and that involvement of civil society organizations that bring diversity of expertise and perspectives has been selective and limited, and that this is missed opportunity. And considering this very limited role of society in governing generative AI, I call this paradox of governance of generative AI. What do I mean by this paradox is that on one hand, what happens with generative AI is that AI becomes much more accessible and widely used by society than many earlier AI techniques that needed much more technical expertise, because ChatGPT at some basic level, everyone can use, and this is not so difficult. But what we see at the same time is that the focus of governance and policy for generative AI has very much narrowed down, and it's predominantly focusing on risks and experts rather than purpose and involvement of society. So this is what I mean by paradox, that technology is more broadly used, but governance is much more narrow. And that's why I suggest to conceptualize this emerging governance of artificial intelligence. I suggest this term governance fix. And to coin this term governance fix, I draw on earlier term technological fix. So what is technological fix? Technological fix concept, it's somewhat similar also to the concept of technological solutionism, which also has been quite popular in recent years. And some of key premises of technological fix is that this approach sees technology as a quick and cheap solution to social problems, that it reduces complex and uncertain social issues to narrow technological problems, that technological solutions are seen as superior to political, economic, educational, and other social science approaches to tackling problems, and that engineers can solve social issues without the need for public participation. And this approach of technological fix was very much promoted already in 1960s by a physicist, Alvin Weinberg, in United States. And despite arguing for it strongly, after 60 years, we see rather limited evidence that this technological fix actually works as suggested, that it can be quick and cheap fix for social problems. Evidence is very much missing. And rather what we see is that it can lead to quite problematic effects. So, and this concept has also received quite a lot of criticism. It has been criticized that technological fixes are incomplete, ineffective, mechanical, that they are not getting to the heart of the problem, and they are creating new problems rather than solving old ones, and that they are one-sided as opposed to holistic. And then one question is, why is this concept so popular? There certainly are many reasons and quite complex. One that can be mentioned is that whose interest it serves. It seems to serve interest of technology companies who can promote their vested interests, so creating new opportunities for their technologies. This technological fix concept has also been criticized because it takes away political attention of policymakers for looking for more holistic approaches. And these policymakers then tend to focus more on easily solvable problems rather than those that require immediate attention, and rather on these quick fixes rather than more ambitious and demanding reform programs, which might be needed in many areas, for example, health or education. And while there is so much criticism of technological fixes and also very little evidence that they work, it's interesting to see that they remain very popular in media, also in policy, and from industry perspective. Because also in recent years, when we follow debates of AI, we can hear a lot of this technological fix thinking, suggesting that technological fixes will save democracy, will help to fight misinformation, will help to fight inequality, and so on. And they are very popular, even if we have quite a lot of evidence that things often work in quite opposite ways, that rather than helping to increase inequality, in many cases, technologies such as AI are reinforcing biases and inequalities and actually offsetting progress that has been made towards equality. So I build on this approach of technological fix to coin this term governance fix. And I see this governance fix as a technocratic approach that is suggested as a way to quickly develop and implement by experts without public deliberation, participation regarding goals, direction, and purpose of technology. And it's very technocratic, very narrow, and it considerably differs from focus on participation and collective purpose in governance and responsible innovation approaches. And in this table, I contrast these four approaches. So on the one side, there are governance and responsible innovation, which focus much more on participation or on inclusion of different social groups, and also on collectively agreed goals. And on the other side are these more narrow and technocratic approaches of technological fix and governance fix, which are much more focusing on experts and largely neglecting questions of participation of society and of collectively agreed goals. So, some conclusions about power and politics behind governance fix, which we can see in case of generative AI. So technocratic and narrow governance fix approach largely is driven by power asymmetries, which we see very much in AI, characterized by large concentration of power in small number of big tech companies. And this very often leads to technology push approach, supply-driven tech with very unclear demand and societal benefit. And also on this slide, you can see this Goldman Sachs report for some months ago, which was also quite critical of generative AI, saying that it is spending too much money and bringing too little benefit, and that use cases of generative AI really helping to solve major societal challenges are still missing. And there are alternatives to this rather narrow governance fix approach. Alternative would be to focus more on politics of participation and democratic co-shaping of tech for social benefits that would include variety of social groups. And considering that situation of power distribution in the field is so unequal, that most power is concentrated in a small number of large tech companies, and there is so little power for civil society. Important role here is for government in reshaping these power relationships, because government has also many tools in shaping technology more towards societal interests, and also bringing different social groups in discussions about the purpose of technology and benefits of technology. So that's a snapshot of this paper, and I'm very happy to answer any questions. Are there any questions?
Yeah, well, thank you for this really great, insightful presentation. We already have a question on the chat. Do you want to read it by yourself, or do you want me to read it? What's best for you? Yeah.
Is it in chat?
Yes, in the chat. Yeah.
About little this person would not purpose. So yeah, I will read aloud. The presenter's concern about little discussion of purpose seems very insightful. Wouldn't a more comprehensive understanding of the purpose of any and all participants regarding AI, including society and sub-societies, help us understand an ever-evolving real set of threats which undermines the request for the pausing of AI development? Yes, it would be very important to know what different societal groups want from artificial intelligence, including generative artificial intelligence, what kind of applications are needed, and very important would be also discussion about where society wants to see use of artificial intelligence, including generative AI, but also other types of AI, and which are applications or uses that society don't want to see. So certainly more broader discussion would reveal more. Predicting what exactly society would want. Would society want pause AI development? I don't know. We have to ask society and different social groups. Or would society really like to shape towards certain developments? Because when we look on specific areas, there's a lot of discussion. For example, in health systems is in crisis. Can AI help, and in what ways AI can help? Or are there some broader reforms or basic reforms needed in artificial intelligence? For example, funding for basic care. So there is a lot of debates to be held in different areas, and it would be important not to preempt and assume what society wants. I hope it answers the question. Are there any other questions? I don't see any other questions.
Yeah, so maybe if it's okay with you, we can close the session. We have just 1 minute left, so this is a perfect timing. Thank you so much, Dr. Inga Olnikain. I think I'm pronouncing badly your last name. Sorry for that. But yeah, thank you for this wonderful presentation. And we invite you to keep assisting to the other sessions here in the DuPont Summit. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.